welcome to Flory Models Daily Vlog. Unfortunately, again, I haven't done as much as I wanted to today. I really wanted to have this pushed on, but this morning I had more meetings with the accountants. The trouble is we use this MOS system and it's the way it works out the VAT for various different countries all around Europe and in England and all like that. And it's that time of the year where we're getting near the end of the year and it all sort of crunches together. So I've got to sort those things out. Can't really overlook it. So unfortunately it does take a little bit of time away from doing this. But happy to say I've just finished rescribing and re-riveting everything. Really nicely. We've covered rescribing and that. There's actually a whole video on it now, re-riveting and everything else like that. So really there's no point in me showing you heavy duty on this. So we did a quick recap and everything else. But happy to say it's basically all done in a roundabout way. There's a few bits and pieces still got to go on this one. But generally, she is sat here ready to have the canopy sort of work fitted onto it. We can get that masked up and done. That way that will be in. Then we're going to mask over, obviously, some of the panels, things like that. Make sure they're all good. But generally, she is ready for paint. Doesn't look like it, but actually all the nasty stuff's done. The only thing I'm just about to do is to put the old raised rivet detail underneath. We've obliterated quite a few and around the tail section. We want to put those back on. So we're actually going to have a go at using the Archer raised rivets. Because to be honest, I could do with them being a bit heavy, more heavy duty to put this into scale, but what I might do is just give these a light sand over just to knock them back a bit. They are quite pronounced on this particular kit. It is Trumpeter's older stuff. It is a bit heavy, but generally it's come together really nicely. So hopefully, say tomorrow you're going to get the next part, which will cover all about the instrument panel and things like that. But generally we should be in a good strong position to have this thing easily in primer by the end of the week. What I'm going to do is, whilst that's all drying and doing its bits in the spray bag, come back, we're going to work on the engine heavily. We're going to do the weapons pylons for it and the weapons fit. As I said before, it's not going to have an over the top, hung everything on this one. It's going to have a workable weapons fit onto this one. So really it looks like it's just on the flight line ready to go. So generally pushing on very nicely. As I said, part 4 will be up with you tomorrow on that one. Over there is the next tool time. So let's have a look. Okay then guys, so cabinet 2. Or tool time 2. Okay, right, so what we got up here is a Sealy disc and belt sander. Great little bit of kit. I bought this thing about just over a year ago now. To be honest, I did the cheap thing. It's a reconditioned one, i.e. it was wrong when it was brand new, gets sent back to the factory, they recon it, and you save around about 1/4 to 1/3 of the price. So one of these is normally about 100 quid. I picked this one up, I think it was for 65 quid. So anyway, it looks like new, comes with a warranty and everything else. So if you want to be a little bit on the old bargain thing, keep an eye out for these things. They do appear, especially on eBay, things like that. Anyway, this has got a medium grit paper on here, and everyone always asks me what grit it is. I can never remember. Yeah, it's P100. Okay, so it's slightly fine. It's what came with it. To be honest, I changed it out immediately for something a lot less, or sorry, a higher grit. So I think I'll put a 120 on it. The trouble with 120 is though, it heats up the actual styrene itself, and before you know it, you're in a situation where it's melting rather than sanding. So you need something with a bit of bite, but it's really handy because obviously if you're doing anything with well, certainly resins, but plastic as well, you can just come off, take off those blocks, put it onto here nice and flat. You've got guide tools and stuff like that that you can actually put onto this one. I don't know where it is, it's obviously disappeared somewhere, but anyway, so you can do your angles and everything else, and obviously this tilts as well. So if you wanted to put this in at a funny angle like this, you can do it and then place it on so you get your 45 degrees and everything else like that. Okay, so generally it's just a nice handy tool to have. Just make sure you get extraction with it, and this one here has got extraction here, and it's got another one on this one, and they're rubber on the ends, so it easily hooks into your hoover, and then you can have your hoover situated somewhere else. So if you are doing something with resin, for instance, as we know it's pretty horrible, then that way it gets rid of all those fibers and it stops it going airborne, because if they go airborne it's going to be very horrible. Okay, and I don't think it's plugged in. No, it's not. Okay, but there we go. But you say it's all fully adjustable, and obviously this guy down here, you can change the angles, all the bits and pieces. So it's just one of those nice handy tools, which again, if you're doing a lot with resin and stuff like that, then you'll know the sort of pain of having to sand or take it outside and sand and everything else. So one of these is one of those tools that you're not going to use it every day, admittedly. It is a little bit of a luxury, but once you've got it, you'll find you won't use anything else. Like me, as soon as I get any type of resin, working on the A10 at the moment, I just pop straight over here, hook the hoover up to it, and away we go, and we're good to go like that. Just make sure your hoover's got a good filter on it. Don't use it through a wet filter or something else like that, because otherwise the particles are going in your hoover and back out the other end. Okay, make sure it's got a proper bag on it just to catch the nasties. But you can see it keeps itself very clean, no problems at all with it. So generally it's all right. Remember to reset the seat. Okay, so this one down here, again, it's quite a thin one at the top. I might just re-angle the camera just a little bit so you can see. All right, so down in here, we have our first one. So let's have a look around. This tends to be because these are quite shallow, you can't get too much in here. Okay, so from my point of view, I tend to keep the flatter things in here, as you can imagine. So starting at the top, I've got a reamer tool. This is like a normal DIY one, really handy to have because you can put it into plastic or wood, is obviously the last thing I did with it. And you can just literally screw it in as far as you want and it'll cut its own way in. Got a little handle on it, dead handy to have. This actually, Steve made me buy this. I haven't even tried it yet, but this is the old compound. It's like a pigment paste for dry brushing by Citadel's. Apparently it's really, really good. I'll move it down a little bit and I'll remember it. Usually one of these, which is obviously just an aluminium punched out mixing palette, always handy to have. Tape, you'd be amazed how much I use that. Electrical tape, can't go wrong. Batteries. Over here, to be honest, don't use it so much during normal modelling, but it's one of those tools, once you've had it, you'll never be without it. You know, a little bit of a tool hoard and everything else, and it just fits very nice in here. So this is for basically rethreading or retapping. How many times have you had in your home where you've threaded something, be it in a chair or whatever? Having one of these just around the house, I use it all the time. To be honest, the bolt came out of one of my seats the other day and it actually pulled through. So retapped it, slightly bigger screw, and we were good to go. So there we go, that's that. Multi-tool, obviously, even with the hobby, having a good multi-tool, because obviously this one's pliers and everything else, as you can imagine down in here. It's just one of those really handy tools to have lying around. Okay, we've got a couple of pastels for doing sort of weathering and stuff, because this is more my weathering drawer. And as you can see down here, we've got various oils. So we've got the 502s, and obviously we've got one of the sets down there, as well as other people's as well. So we've got some of the Daily Ronies. These are my ones I use all the time. Okay, so this is why I have them in here. I'll lean over and I'll grab these and we use them. Oils is something where I never used oils ever until probably 2 or 3 years ago. Steve got me into them, taught me the little trick about using cardboard to absorb the actual oil out of it before putting it on your model. That way it dries quicker. So from that point of view, it was a game changer. I like to use them. I think they're absolutely great using oils. You have more control, and especially if you're doing things like armour and stuff like that, it just gives you that enable to sort of blend better than you can do with your traditional washes and everything else like that. These little guys here, these little plates with a little spoon on there, to be honest, Matt got me these, and they come in a big old thing like this, and you get multiples in a set. Again, great little ones, easy clean up. To be honest, there you go, I've been using 2, and so you don't really need a pack full, but again, it's the U-Star stuff that obviously we've seen their scribers and that next door in the other cabinet. But there we go, that's that one there. And here it is. This is what you often see when I'm messing around doing those various things during live shows and stuff like that. You often see me in here. I might just recenter that. Right, so this is originally was my metallic straw. Okay, now the thing with having a metallic straw was that I had all my sort of overspill metallic paints. As you know, my paint rack, although it holds a lot of paint, it doesn't hold everything. So what I tend to do is, in here are colours that I use, but I don't use them every day, so I keep them out of the way. And we got some duplicates in here and stuff like that. So starting down this side, you can probably see I do like these. These are the metal colour ones. Again, I've got no room on the rack. I'm going to redo it probably in the summer when the weather's nicer. I'm going to take you out and we'll do it outside. But these are the actual acrylic metal colours. They're really nice once you know how to work with them. Again, these are one of those paints where people often say to me, it's not working for me. A lot of it is user error, knowing how to use these. It's not like a normal acrylic paint you're spraying. It is a metallic or a metallizer finish, so you just want to keep those coats nice and light, lower air pressure, and just put them down at a steady rate. Don't go in there and flood it. As soon as you flood it, you get the tide mark and you get that, I call it the sand effect into it, where you've sort of got dark and light patches and stuff like that. Once you know, you're good to go. One of the questions came up the other day, in case you missed it, somebody saying about, can you hand paint these? Yes, you can. They're beautiful for it, but you need to have a primer down first for it to bite to. If you try and put it neat onto plastic, it tends to not to like it. This stuff prefers to have a good primer down first, and then that way you're good to go with it. Okay, so no problem with that. This used to be, this is the Model Master sealer, my favourite sealer for putting down onto any type of metallic finish. And I bought, I think it was a pack of 6 of these years ago. I think this is my last bit of it. Until we got the new sort of clears and the new sort of ones now, which tend to be a lot better than using Future and stuff like that. This was my go-to one. It would just work really, really well every time, no problem with it, and it didn't affect the finish. But it was a bit of a bugger, quite frankly, to get here in the UK. So that's why I ended up getting, I think it was 6 bottles I brought in at once. Okay, so that's the sealers there. Then we got various things down in here, okay? So often people say about ACAM paints or ACAM paints, have I used them or anything else like that? Yes, I have. We use them on the Hein 24. They're great paints, they work really, really well. No problem at all with them. It's just that I don't like the way that they're pre-faded and pre-weathered. I prefer to do that myself because obviously you don't get that true original colour with them. But again, it's horses for courses. There's nothing wrong with the paint. Spray's lovely, no problem at all. Check out the Hein video build because we use those right the way through. Another one we got down here, good old-fashioned one, is Polyscale. Okay, which is, say, I don't think it's even available anymore. Had this one, this is when we did the SU-27, we needed Russian colours. At that point, these were the only guys in town. Again, I got them in from the US. In fact, I think Hans sent me these and things like that, so that was really handy. Again, Russian colours, Model Master, enamels. This was the only guy in town if you wanted to spray anything Russian back in the day. Now we've got brand new acrylics and stuff like that, that's why they're here. Again, lovely paint to spray, very nice. We used it on the Dolphin recently, we're doing the orange colours and stuff like that. Works really, really well. So we've got a selection of those. These guys, which are the buffer balls, which are the Mr. Metal colours, really like these things. These work extremely well, no problem at all with them. And the thing is, usual thing, that you get shortages in the UK, or used to. So what I tend to do is I bulk buy. So these actually, I don't know if you remember a few months back, but on one of the live shows or on the vlogs, I had a delivery and I had 6 of these turn up. And what it was, they were actually on back order with Lucky Model from about 2 years ago. And obviously it took them 2 years to get them in. We've got other colours, so we've got X5. In fact, that could do with going over my other one because it's out, so I needed that one. Various colours I got in here, which are obviously overflow. Again, as I said, I've got another one down there, and this is where it gets a bit confusing. I need to sort myself out, so we've got various colours. We've got the AK range of paints. We used them on the Hurricane back in the day, if you want to see that one being done. We were speaking about this particular colour on last week's live show, where we were talking about the different colours of Azor's blue. It seems to be every manufacturer has their own theory on it. Again, these paints a little bit different. They're very reminiscent to using the MIG colours, where they are very thin. So you put down very thin coats and build it up slowly. Okay, again, a lot of it is just knowing the paint, knowing how it works. Not all paints work the same, so you just use it like that. These guys, the Artillery paints. Now, what did we use that on? God, we used these on a model. I just can't remember which one. Yeah, I can't remember actually which one we used it on. But I've got a feeling perhaps it was the Hurricane. Somebody else's, I don't know. But anyway, we used them. These stuff is like old-fashioned paste. It is really, really thick. I don't know if you can see here, but you can see it is like sludge. Great stuff. It'll thin forever, but it's a little bit soft. It's not as easy to use as some other manufacturers of paints and things like that, quite frankly. Again, down the back here, we've got loads of other AK ones. Soviet weathering sets. So this is because, to be honest, I wanted the interior blue colour for doing Russian stuff, and obviously we've got the radome colour, we've got some AK paints down in there, but I saw this set come out, and at that point is when we were doing the MIG. I needed some of the MIG internal colours, and they've just been released actually by AK, so they do that interior funny turquoise colour, really difficult to get hold of, but again now it has been brought out by other people, are sort of doing it now, so it's not so much of a problem as it was. We've got various paint sets, so down here they're sort of duped up with what we've got over there as well, but these are the AK colours for doing all your naval stuff. Again, it was that thing, you couldn't get things like was it light gold grey? Dark gold grey. And things like that, so that's why we got that one. And again, we've got other various sets here, so we've got the Luftwaffe set, and also we've got the Imperial Japanese Navy colour set as well for those. Again, some of the Hobby Boss colours, which I use a lot. As I say, I've got another box full of them, which are, to be honest, over the other side. But again, these are the colours from them that I use a lot. As you can see, just poke them down. Over here we've got washes, so we've got various AK interactive enamel washes. These are great, we use them all the time. Various things we got down there, so we've got browns, we've got filters, we've got all those different other ones. I know a lot of people think I don't use them, but I do. So we've got lots of those down there. My favourite, to be honest, is like landing gear wash and stuff like that. Okay, so that's always a very handy one to have. Dupes of MRP paints, these are the ones I go through lots and lots and lots of. So we've got various colours, which I was thinking probably going to use loads of them. So there's that Russian turquoise interior colour. So I must admit I bought 2 of them. So these tend to be duplicates in here. To be honest, I used these when we did the flanker and stuff like that. So that's why they're in here. I've got the posh new ones out on display. So that's all of those. And of course, we've got the AK Extreme Metal. Now, as a lot of you know, there was a problem with it, which this is a problem bottle. So it's like water on the top and it just doesn't mix very well. Some of those are in here. I need to throw them out now because they were good enough to replace everything that we had. So that is literally all my backups of paints and everything else. What's in there? That surface primer, but again, this is because I'm using it because it's the light ghost grey colour. Very nice, but it is that polyurethane stuff, which I'm not a fan of. If you want to sand it quickly, it's going to cause you a little bit of a problem. Okay, so that's that one. Then we've got the airbrushing drawer, which isn't just airbrushing, to be honest, it's my drill bit drawer and everything else like that. Okay, so down in here, this is everything like the spare parts, the small stuff and stuff like that. So starting over here, obviously drill bit set. This basically goes from 0.15mm to the bigger stuff. Handy thing just to have all day long. So it sits in there literally like that. Bought it as a case, cheap as chips off eBay. Okay, we've got some various adapters. These are the 1/4 inch and 3/8 ones that go from the compressors. Just got a load of them. Down here in front, we've got an empty plastic bag, a little tool set which has got, actually this is for the air tools, this is for the big compressor car rated one, and they're the jigsaw blades that go with it, and the guard, because we've got one of those which I think you saw on the previous show. Backup air hose, just a quick one. The reason I have this one in here, one of my compressors is literally on a quick disconnect in there, so if I need to do a compressor job somewhere, like for instance, what did we do the other week? Oh, the dog did a bit of damage to a bit of wood in the house, so I airbrushed it because it was quicker. So that's what that one is for. And again, more backup sets. So we've got connectors down in here, we've got adapters, you name it, we've got it, all these different bits down in there. So it's always handy to have as well. That's a lock pen for the trestle that goes above the studio. Okay, so over here, starting at the top, we've got, this is one of the funny little caps, which is like a needle guard, but it's like a cone. It's actually what they call a distance cap for artists spraying very, very fine stuff, but also it makes a damn good guard in general. When we used to do the airbrushing courses, I used to find we used to use these because we didn't bend as many needles as we did. We've got a backup, I think that's a 2mm colour cut. Down in there, so that's that one. Then moving down, we've got some pipe cleaners. To be honest, you might remember we had that Iwata cleaning set. They're very handy still to have pipe cleaners at the end of the day. Old school, but it works. Then down here, all the ones you can see with a yellow band around them like this, these are old needles. Okay, these are the ones that have been bent or they've worn out or just generally they're not working for me. I always keep them because they come in really handy for other jobs. I know a lot of people use them for super glue application, stuff like that, okay? But also, it might be not working perfectly, but if I ever broke one or really bent one, I can come back to using one of these. That's why they're there. Same goes over here with the actual nozzles. These are nozzles that aren't quite right or flared and things like that. We've got a 2-prong cap, pinch cap there, which has come out of somewhere. So hold on, we'll just pop this guy back in here. Should be in there, I think. That's it. And things like that. So that's that one on that side. Then down here we got PTFE, which is the plumber's tape, which is vinyl tape. Really, your air compressor should never leak anywhere if it's always just on. And to be honest, mine are always pressurized up and just sat there, as you know. So the thing is, I always go around and just make sure you go round clockwise or anti-clockwise, whichever way it is, to make sure it's on. But having a good seal on your airbrush works very, very well. Okay, super lube, we speak about it all the time. Can't beat a bit of lube. Twofold with it. Don't forget, it lubricates obviously your airbrush and makes it work and just everything slide nicely. But also, if you put a little bit of this actually onto the needle tip itself, it'll stop it drying on the needle. But you have to keep redoing that application. A couple other little things. We've got a hose adapter and an end cap. For locking off different air things down there. And then in here, this is the spares bit. To be honest, we got another pinch cap. I didn't realise I had so many pinch caps. But we got the needle guard for how the Infinity comes. We've got the old-fashioned one and the little pins for undoing it. So these are bits for the Infinity. It's just the spares for the Infinity. Over on this side, we've got all the O-rings and seals. So we've got spare bags. So these have got the PTFE seals and everything for all the airbrushes. As you know, all the Harder and Steenbeck airbrushes have the same nozzle seals and internal seals and even the hand seals and everything else. They're exactly the same for all the airbrushes, so it's handy. So you only need one set. They're only £7 a set. Always handy to have a spare one lying around, purely because you never know when you break it, and you know it's going to go at just the wrong time, because that's sod's law for you. Because of that, I always have a brand new spare 0.2 needle and nozzle. Okay, purely because, again, it's one of those things, when they go, it's a nightmare. I've learnt it mainly from commission days, because if you had a commission, you can guarantee you're tight on time, something happens to your airbrush, you've got to wait for it to come in, and I can guarantee you it'll be the one time they're out of stock as well. So because of that very rule, and obviously my work here, I always keep a brand new needle and nozzle ready to go at any one time. I could always pinch it from another airbrush, but force of habit, so I always keep one. And then down in here again, we've got brand new unused nozzle. That's the 0.4. It's the bigger needle nozzle set that goes for the Infinity or any other airbrushes. And obviously you can put a pinch cap, which I could do is take that one and put it on there to go with it. But obviously the end cap for the 0.4 and 0.6 is bigger than the 0.2 and the 0.15. So that's why you need two on those. These little guys here are just the handles for the spare side for the actual extraction booth. Air block, so literally that's just one going in and then two coming out if you wanted to put a splitter onto your air system. This little guy in here, to be honest, is a glass pipette. Obviously it's a reusable pipette. I did buy a few of them and they've got the caps that fit onto the MRP paints. But, I don't know, we had leakage problem with that. It didn't work exactly well. That one shouldn't be in there. This little guy here is, I've got to remember how this all works now. It's a light. I don't know if the light still works. Does the light work? Nope. Light doesn't work. But anyway, it's for looking at the end of your needle. So you can check your needle and your nozzle. It's magnified. And normally, it used to, oh, there you go. The light does come on. So you can see it's got a light, so you can actually shine it on the end of your needle and look at it through here in one, so you can check to see if you've got a bent needle or if your nozzle's got a split in it or anything else like that. To be honest, it was sent to me as a little bit of a freebie from Iwata, and we did do a full review on it and everything back in the day. Needles, again, sewing needles, these are just standard things I've had over the years. They're great. Obviously you can use them for rescribing, you can put them into a jig, or just generally super glue application, things like that. That's what those are in there for. Up here we have spare blades, more sewing needles. These are the blades for the scroll saw that you saw last time, and in the back here, as you can see, I do go through quite a lot of needles. So we've got, again, these are the really bad ones, which I know are totally had it. So we got, you can see the amount of nozzles I go through. I've never thrown these away, that's why we got so many, but we've got all the ones. These are the ones which are really old and completely had it. They are, for whatever reason, like those nozzles are split and gone, so these can't be used again. The three that I've got down there aren't too bad, but those have really had it. But being a hoarder, I don't throw them away. So what that is why all that is in there. So there we go. That's my sort of airbrush backup, spares, tools, various things like that. So that's the little things in there. Okay, so last up we've got screws and fixings. Little bit of a mishmash down here, and to be honest, I've redone this sort of drawer section down here. As you know, I'm real hoardy when it comes to little nuts and bolts and stuff like that. So what we've got down in here is tiniest of little screws and things like that, as well as big stuff. So we've got some giant big bolts. Some of you might know, one of my little sidelines is I like to do is like prop making. So these come in very well for doing stuff like that. But also down here we've got tiny little flat-headed screws Literally, these are tiny little flat ones, but they're very shallow because when you're doing prop making, it's not a functional part. Some of it is going into resin and stuff like that. So you just drill a hole, little bit of resin in there, and then obviously just push this in and away you go. But we've got various things down there. So we've got tiny little, if you watch the ATAT build, for instance, it was the free one to watch with the ATAT. We've got these tiny little, these are M2 by 3. We've got tiny little dome-headed hex nuts there. Sorry, screws even. We've got these are 2.5 by 3s, little tiny ones, getting a little bit bigger now. So we've got M3 by 4s. Okay, and these are tiny little hex-headed ones, which, if you can't see them, they're basically these great big things like this. Okay, so they're quite nice, really, for just doing anything. But you could use these, obviously, on your larger models, your car models, stuff like that. And then we go right down to silly scale, as I call it. So down in here, we've got M2 by 2, M2 by 3, and these are absolutely minute versions of these things. Okay, and then again, we've got various screws. We've got tiniest, these are like almost watchmakers, but again, it's great for little tiny bits of detail. So these are tiny little grub screws. I don't know what size they are, 1.6 by 2. And then obviously we get even smaller, I think. Oh, that's a bigger one. But yeah, so it's just one of those things. And then we've just got flat-headed headsets and everything else. So it's really handy just to have stuff like that. And then in here, again, this is pretty much a duplicate of what we got in there, but this is just grub screws, really big ones, right the way through to tiny little ones, so they're always handy to have. And we've got, this is how I buy my shakers, if you like. These are marine grade nuts. I think these are M5, I think it is. So these are marine grade stainless steel nuts. These are M5, these are M4s. Okay, this is what I chuck into my pots of paint to shake them up. The great thing about them is, I think if you're using a ball bearing or a circular steel one and everything else, they can get down the end of a dropper bottle. So if you're using something like, you know, one of these, when you upturn it, the ball goes down the end, it blocks the flow coming out the end, and then you end up with a thing, and I've done it before, you squeeze a little bit harder and the entire end blows off. Okay, so from that point of view, you don't want that happening, so that's why I use these. And also, I think just because of the shape and everything, it gives a better mix than using a standard type of shape. All right, then over here we've got more stuff. So we've got more nuts and bolts and various things. Said I love collecting tiny little nuts and bolts. It's really weird, just a little bit of a habit that I've had over the years. This is just my better stuff out in the shed, to be honest. I've got tons of the stuff and various things. Then we've got just electrical stuff down here. So we've got blocks for doing the electrical bits and pieces. We've got cable ties in various sizes, various colours, and then down here we've got odds and sods. We've got a giant bolt thing there, and old screws and stuff. And they're like that. And then, to be honest, that is it, because when we go down below, this is just my airsoft electronics bits and pieces, as you can see down there. So that's when I do those, which I don't really do anymore. And as I say, then we've got more airsoft stuff down below, which really isn't anything to do with this. So there we go, that's that one done, guys. Okay, next week what we'll do, we'll go over to the bench. So yeah, only a couple of draws on that one, lots of paint, various things on that. The next tool time we do will be with you next Tuesday, Tool Tuesday. Hey, we're going to be looking at what I've got literally here and the paint rack. So that's what we're going to do next week. And then what we'll do is we'll do the spray booth, and then we're going to do, obviously the spray booth will cover what's below it, what's above it, all in that section. And then we'll have a look down there at the computer equipment, the stash, and then obviously by then the offices will be very nice and clean and everything else for next month, hopefully. And they'll be nice, and I can show you around upstairs in the stock room. We can show you the new office that we've got up there as well, and everything else like that. So generally there's still quite a few nice bits and pieces to come with it. And as I say, when we're in the spray booth, we're going to look on airbrushing as well. We covered a little bit about airbrushes, but my airbrushes are all over here. We do that all part of spraying. I like that one. So that's about it today. Short and sweet, I know, but generally hopefully be back to getting on with it full time tomorrow. So till tomorrow, everybody, happy modelling, take care.